Okay.
not because again, not because necessarily the tech isn't going to be there, but it's that a social acceptance that I just think it's
Mm.
gonna take a little bit longer because again, and this is like my what I feel like and what I feel like as humans, we just don't like to lose that sense of control.
It's kind of crazy how far AI has been developed in just the last freaking year, I want to say.
Mhm.
Maybe you can like give me a little bit info on that just cuz like it's so much like we've done AI or we've developed AI for many many years now, but like the spotlight is on it like this year specifically.
Yeah, I mean, like something that kind of blew my mind since I started working at my law firm is the fact that how not just the firms, but the industry of law in general have incorporated AI
Mhm.
into our work. For example, apparently, when it comes to like bankruptcy proceedings and in bankruptcy court, we the time that we bill gets overseen by like a trustee, right?
Okay.
Whoever the trustee, the U.S. Bankruptcy trustee or whatever, and our time that's billed, the trustee or the courts apparently they run our time that we bill through an AI system to
Interesting.
make sure that what we're billing actually makes sense, that we're not double billing the same things, that like they have become a lot more strict in it. And
Okay.
and it's and it's in this case, other clients I have been told, like because in my practice group, it's finance and bankruptcy. It's kind of a two
Mhm.
into one, because finance it has to do a lot more with just transactional documents, and in bankruptcy, there's a little bit of litigation involved. You actually have to go to the
Right.
courts and file things, right? So I was told, like on the bankruptcy side, they do run it through an AI system to make sure that it is in accordance to whatever the rules are and that it makes sense what we're billing to our clients. In the
Now, do you know how long they've been using an AI system to like do that kind of like fact checking
I
in the law system?
I don't know, but I want to say it's recent because last year nobody told me anything like that. And I will say, last year I don't think they really cared about what I was
Mhm.
billing because like I wasn't really billing towards
Who
any
are you
client.
to bill anything?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I doubt they were using my time to actually bill a client. So maybe
Yeah.
they just didn't tell us that. But with the explosion of AI in the last like couple of years, I want to say it's pretty recent, especially since the people that I've talked to around me who have already been working at the firm for several years, they said that it's actually something new. It's not like it's been like that
Oh,
forever.
okay.
Yeah, and now even clients that are, that's not in this case the courts at all. It's now our individual clients. They screen our time too with an AI system to make sure that they're getting their money's worth. And like I understand, I do
Makes sense.
understand,
Yeah.
like the partners and associates that are really high in the pedigree, I guess their time is very expensive for a client. So I understand the precautions and the steps that they try to take to make sure that they're not paying more than what they should be. But now we have to be really careful because even like someone was telling me that I have to be very careful that my time isn't also a double of somebody else's time. So the example they kind of gave me is
Mhm.
that we're in a meeting, maybe with the client, and there's two associates there, and then we
Right.
both put in our time. If our time comes out to be exactly the same, even and it somewhat should be because we're both kind of doing the same thing at the meeting.
Right.
It would get potentially flagged by the system and then potentially scratched
Oh,
off. So there's been a whole like different types of best practices that the firm has tried to teach us to one, to show full transparency because we do want
mhm.
to know, like let the client know exactly what we're doing. But
Which is
also,
great.
yeah, which is great, exactly, which is great. Then, but the second thing is also just to not get flagged by the system.
Okay. Now, like, is this AI system you think um, perfected in a way where, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt, like this system is going to flag properly, or maybe that there is a flagging system, so that way we can determine anomalies in the training module or whatever the case, the data set that they put together in the AI,
Mhm.
right? Like, so I guess I answered my own question about that, right? Like the flagging of items or the use of AI to flag different things, I think is, creating that categorization in AI. And I think that's something that's overlooked, right? So, and the reason I say that, for example, oh, why did it turn dark all of a sudden? What is going on? Once, whoa, that was weird. Okay. Um, eh, Talking about the categorization of AI, right? From some of the things that I've been trying to learn about AI and AI development is that there's so much open AI software available at the moment, and people who are just getting into AI or who want to develop fast in AI are using these pre-made models. And the issues with these pre-made models is that you have to teach it so much more by removing a garbage, right?
Mhm.
And and the biggest example of like flagging, right? I saw this video, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Canva.
The editing,
Yeah,
design graphic design app thing, right?
it's a graphic designer, and they have like a free and a premium services, but they're working on a AI generated image for marketing and for advertising and for all that stuff, which is really cool stuff,
Mhm.
right? Because now you're saving a lot of legality, right? Because you're generating a human face, right, without potentially taken away from someone's privacy, whatever the case may be, right? But back then they used to take photos off the internet, right? And this person's image could be used elsewhere for profit, and they didn't know about it, and they're not going to get a single cent about it, right? The benefit of AI generated images is that this is a non-existent person, right? Those privacy laws, whatever the case may be, does not apply to them, right? Which is great.
Mm.
But what they're finding is that in these AI developments, like specifically in Canva, the AI generated images that they had was sometimes flagging, determining on some of the keywords that they were putting in there. So, like for example, they put, you know, black woman with Bantu beads, like Bantu beads, right? And it got flagged that hey, this is potentially inappropriate, right? Maybe in some contexts it is, but like these programs are still taking away a lot of junk, and that's because the development of these AI modules are take away the bad stuff, right? And when you take away and scrape away all the bad stuff so much, it's gonna learn how to discriminate from all the bad stuff, you know. So, and I think that's what's so intriguing to me about AI is that like it's come so far, but now we're realizing how much deeper it can get and how far away we still are from developing like a functioning AI.
When you say discriminating against the bad thing, you're saying that, like, it's smart enough to be able to see that something is potentially bad and not, and avoid it, right? And avoid it? Is that what you're trying to get at? Like, as in a good thing?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. It's well, it's both actually. It's complex in a way where yeah, we're trying to set parameters of saying, okay, like for example, like this is obviously racist, right? Like another example that they saw was that you know when they did some searches about like children, right? They saw some disturbing photos of that's generated by AI, right? Like for example, they had one of a picture of a child with like a bullet hole on their head,
oh,
right?
okay, yeah, yeah. I
And
think
it's
I remember
like,
seeing that image.
yeah, and it's like it's disturbing, right? And it's like that should be flagged, obviously, and it's great that AI is trying to catch if it is flagging it, but it's still generating that. You know, it can still be unflagged. It can still curate that, and from the stuff that I've been trying to, look at in terms of how they're trying to solve this is that, you know, develop an AI that understands, all of this stuff from the beginning. So that way you have data sets of that. But the problem is that there's not enough,
Mm,
you
right.
know,
Yeah, at least not yet, because
not yet.
it just like you said, it just takes so much data, like, just like today, I don't know if you saw, but Tesla has been,
Mm,
recalled, like, I think over 2,000,000 cars,
right.
um because of their FSD, and I've actually been reading the Elon Musk book. I don't know
Hmm.
who's been reading, but like his biography or whatever. And in it, I just finished it today. I was doing the audiobook because I don't have time to sit down and read it.
Right.
But in it, it was basically talking about how in the last couple of years has been trying to use AI to run through the footage of, you
Hmm.
know, all the Tesla owners out there, um, and to be able to calculate and make like an equation basically of like what a good driver would do in certain scenario and try to teach the
Right.
cars that, which, is I feel like the whole idea of like a self-driving car, it scares a lot of people, and I think
Yeah.
rightfully so. It makes sense, you know? I feel like humans like to be in control of things, and when we basically let a machine do the controlling for us, it scares us. I feel like that's just in our human nature. So, rightfully so, it makes sense that people are already kind of skeptical of this.
Right.
But it shouldn't hinder the progress though. Like I still think the fact that uh, somebody out there is trying to develop this technology, whether or not it fails or succeeds, it's up to,
Hmm.
we'll have to wait and see. But the fact that it's at least being tried and see what happens just interests me a lot. But what I just thought like I saw yesterday there was like a tweet by Tesla's account, um where it was basically defending its full self-driving feature on
Uh-huh.
its car, and it was trying to pull data basically saying that, it statistically, it's actually a lot more safer to use the feature and that there's actually a lot less accidents if you compare our numbers to with people that
Would
use
use
it
it.
compared to people that don't. And they've even went into, trying to specify and saying that like most accidents, if not all the accidents that are caused by somebody who's doing self-driving is usually the driver's fault and not the car itself. But like it just it kind of just blew my mind the fact that I didn't know that Tesla was using AI to be able to perfect that system, and it seems like they truly do believe in their mission. And even
Hmm.
after they said that yesterday, I'm assuming they got so much pushback as to why today they released that they were gonna recall, the
Right.
the Teslas, and then I think it's just gonna be a software update to
Hmm.
limit the
Full
FSD.
self-driving.
Yeah, the full
Yeah.
self-driving, and I don't even think it's the full packet. I think they're actually trying to also limit just the auto steering,
Right.
to places where, maybe one shouldn't be doing that, I don't know what that place.
Down the
Maybe
street
this
of
maybe
a.
yeah, maybe down the street, maybe residential streets or whatever.
Yeah.
But and they're also trying to use, like, the internal cameras on the cars to warn, drivers when they're not paying attention, um,
Hmm.
instead of just having the little vibration on your steering wheel when your hands aren't on it with the auto steer. So, I mean, it's just like, and I think that just, like, shows that people are still just very skeptical, because if people weren't skeptical, I don't think Tesla would have done what they did today. And it's the fact that
Hmm.
even after they tried to defend themselves yesterday, they got pushback to saying like, okay, you know what? We'll still, we still believe in all this, but we'll take a step back. I know it's still new. We'll make some changes accordingly to hopefully, you know, uh stop people from basically start hating and then calm everybody down for a
Yeah.
second until the technology evolves and gets better. Because and I will say,
So,
sorry, the last thing I want to
uh,
say is like from the book, from like something like the recurring theme in the book that I got was that Elon is just very ruthless when it comes to his tactics of how to run a company, and he is actually very willing to cut corners just to get to his end goal,
mm,
which I kind of disagree when it comes to safety, and it
right.
seems like he was willing to compromise some safety. Not the book didn't go into the specifics of the cars, but it did go into the specifics of like SpaceX when they were trying to like something that kind of blew my
Oh, yeah, I
mind.
remember that. Yeah.
He was trying to lower the size of the metal, or I think it was like stainless steel, whatever used in the rockets to,
Mhm.
what physics allows rather than what the experts recommended due to safety purposes, because he just wanted to lose the weight to, I don't know if it was to make it go faster or actually make it to
Generate the
go to
thrust or something.
space. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was something along those lines, but and let's just hope that that's not the case when it comes to full self-driving. And I still think we have a long way to go when it comes to that. Not necessarily because of a tech thing. I definitely think more of a society thing. I definitely think I have to do
So,
more of a
do you
society thing.
think it's inevitable, like, for us to, integrate AI on a daily basis and get more people to accept AI? Do you think it's inevitable, or do you think that there's always going to be, some sort of resistance to that? Like, like, I compare it to, like, technology that we've developed prior, right? So, like,
Mhm,
I don't know, like, for example, like, you and Ken's, right? About your heater stuff. Hey, 200 years ago, that didn't exist, right?
mhm.
People have lived without it, and people can continue to live without it, right? But we choose to integrate that in our daily lives, and we've actually even chosen to integrate that into the very minuscule level, like, of our car,
Mhm.
right? Like, we'll heat up our car, we'll put on the AC in our car, we'll do that at our home. We'll try to do that everywhere. We're trying to control it everywhere as much as we can, right? But it's a rising technology that people have accepted inevitably because as humans, we wanted to be comfortable, right? Like, something we've accepted. Like, yes, I know some parts of the world like may not have this or may not have that, but it's just something that I want to compare that to because I think that AI is going to be inevitable in some sort of form. I mean, I think it is now, right? Like, look at our phones, like text to speech, right? Autocorrect. These are examples of like small AI that have been developing, very, very small and now has become a big part of our daily life.
Yeah, but and like I agree with you in a to a certain point, but I think the key difference between like our previous technologies compared to AI as a whole goes back to what I was saying about
Mhm.
humans like to be in control. When the
Okay.
car was invented, we still have to drive them. It just replaced the horse. When we were able to, build planes, we still have to pilot them. Even now with drones, when it comes to wars, there's somebody always behind a screen controlling it. Um,
But isn't that what AI is? It's just enabling us to control it differently. Like,
well,
when we say like we're in control to drive a car or to drive a plane, like, how is me physically being in a car driving versus me driving it virtually on a computer and it's doing something physically in the real world, right? Like an RC. I can be driving an RC and I could not be in that car,
mhm.
right? Like, it's I'm not saying that's I'm not comparing the autonomy of it like that, but it's more of what is that form of control, right?
Right.
Like, I do believe that AI is going to evolve to where we can control it to where, you know, it's what's gonna replace what we don't wanna do and just focus on what we want to do, right? And I think that's like what technology is. It's just a tool to advance the human life.
Well, going to your example of remote controlling something, I still and maybe I didn't explain myself well. I still believe that is a sense of control, but I
No,
get
no, I get that.
okay.
I'm saying that, like, AI, like, we will also still have a sense of control in AI, right? Because we're the ones setting the parameters, right? We're the
But
ones
not the average
putting the control.
person. It would be the programmers, the people who develop it. They may have a sense of control, but not the everyday users. I think that's what the key
Right.
difference is the fact that for the everyday folk, they will feel like they lose a sense of control, especially if we go off the definition of like what AI in the science fiction uh, kind of way is supposed to be, and that's
Mhm.
some sort of artificial intelligence that is smart enough to be able to think on its own and basically develop its own thoughts rather than just a database that has been running numbers of past, scenarios and then calculating into what potential situations can happen and developing outcomes. So if we
Right.
ever do develop the true meaning of something that's AI that like is fully autonomous by itself and that does not need anybody else, like in that sense, people will freak out. That would be even a different type of like
Different kind of
loss
panic.
of control. Yes.
Right.
No, and dude, and so again, going back to the book, and it's like
Yeah.
I wasn't like I did not plan on reading that book for this
Uh-huh.
video here. It was just the fact
How long was the audiobook?
it was like 15 hours, I think.
Oh, that's pretty long, okay.
Yeah, no,
Alright.
it's a pretty big book. But in that book, it's so funny. Elon actually is somebody who's afraid of AI. He wants
Yeah?
AI to develop, but he wants it with parameters, like how we were talking
Yes.
about, because he is afraid that eventually we'll develop something that is completely autonomous and that it can think on its own. And one of his fears is that machines will govern will take over, you know?
Yeah.
And like he has been apparently very vocal with his close friends and because I didn't know this, apparently he's a co-founder of OpenAI and then he
Oh.
left later
Mhm.
because there was just a conflict of what the mission was in terms of like what he thought AI should be.
Interesting.
Yeah. Apparently
Okay.
OpenAI started as like a nonprofit thing where it was
Yeah.
supposed to just grow, but now it's become like a very like profit, like it has like billions of dollars its net worth now,
Mhm.
and that apparently OpenAI wants to develop it into, I guess more or less like have it being okay he said that he didn't like it because apparently now Microsoft owns it, and he doesn't like the fact that Microsoft, which he calls basically a monopoly, is now in
I
control of
mean,
the AI and can
uh-huh.
input its own biases in it. And this goes to Elon's being, especially in his last couple of years of showing that he seems like he's leaning a lot more towards the right, in which he basically says that he doesn't want it to get infiltrated with like the wokeness, the woke disease that's going around right
Yeah.
now. Um, while he wants to develop an AI where there are parameters and it won't develop to something that can take over and, you know, machines taking over or whatnot. I just that's like and I'm pretty sure, he's not the only one who has that fear for at least the believers out there, for at least the believers, because there are others who genuinely don't
Yeah.
think that this will develop into anything, at least in our lifetime. Like personally,
Yeah.
I'm also having a hard time believing that it will develop into something like how we see in the movies in our lifetime.
Okay.
Not because necessarily the tech isn't going to be there, but it's that a social acceptance that I just think it's
Mm.
going to take a little bit longer because again, and this is like my what I feel like and what I feel like as humans, we just don't like to lose that sense of control. I'll give you a clear example. There is a clear divide between people who are happy with like the Alexas and the Google Homes in their house, and then there
Yeah.
is the other group of people who absolutely hate it. They think that, It could be that the companies are listening in, or
Yeah.
they simply don't understand it, or they think it's a gimmick and that it's unreliable, so like I feel like that's a clear example of something that we're trying to hand off to something that I will say is very limited and is not at all compared to what AI is supposedly developing right now.
Right.
Um, but that like will I think that some people wi- it I will say if it gets developed well enough to like replace certain jobs, it will be forced upon us, just like how when there was the Industrial Revolution and machines started
Mhm.
replacing factory workers, those factory workers didn't have a say. And then it just made sense from an economic point of view to replace that labor for machines that, after training them could do just as well, if not better, because a machine doesn't get tired. So,
Right.
um, and we evolved. We did evolve. That was an evolution for us because
Yeah, we found different jobs, right?
exactly. So and it's that I was actually having a conversation with my dad about this actually.
Yeah.
It's that conflict too of like whenever a new technology comes out, it's the fear that jobs are going to get replaced. Completely merited, you don't nobody
Right.
wants to feel like they're replaceable. And
Right.
that especially when
Especially by a machine, right?
especially by a machine. Exactly. So you have the group of people who don't want it because they think like, oh, why are you guys going to try to replace our jobs? It's not fair, unethical, and moral, whatever you want to call it. Then you have the other group of people who they try to see it in the sense of like, yes, but like it's not necessarily that. All we're doing is helping evolving the human race to its next level, and just like how it happened previously, new jobs were formed. Now,
Yes.
like, and I'm gonna ask you in a second, like, what your
Okay.
thoughts are in that conversation, but
Uh-huh.
like, I feel like I'm somewhere stuck in the middle, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like because
Yeah.
I do feel for people who are older, who have already lived their life and are, due to life, stuck in a job or just chose to be in a job that unfortunately can be replaced by AI or a machine or whatever. Like I feel for those because when you're older, to make a shift in your career, it's nearly impossible. And like what do you do like once it happens, So like I feel for those folks. I feel a little bit less for the younger generation, the generation that is, still kids and growing up because like they're growing up with that technology. And nowadays with social media, most of us, if not all of us, at least especially in the Western democracies, are
Mhm.
aware of what is happening and how technology is developing, to which one should try to prepare to at least go into a workforce or a job where it's harder for AI or a machine to replace you. Whether the opportunities are there is very, very like case dependent, where you grew up, what your family background is, and whatever. But like and I feel and yeah, and I will agree that that population, the ones that are like lower income in worse districts, they're the ones who are probably going to be the most vocal about this because um they may feel that it will affect them the most. Again,
Right.
totally understandable, but I don't know. Like I'm like somewhere stuck in the middle because I hear both sides and I agree with both sides. I don't want it to be that way, but like you said, I think it's also something inevitable. And if it is something inevitable and you can try to avoid it, then it's best to think about that now and try to avoid it in the future so you're not in that position, right? So
Yeah.
it's not like me trying to be heartless and not thinking about the folks and saying like, "Oh no, like just change or whatever." It's just more of like there's just some things in life that just happen, and one can either complain about it or if they can and they have the time to change and avoid it altogether, then you make that switch if possible. And again, this goes more for younger people rather than people who have already had like established careers.
Right.
So much harder for them. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
So it's so hard to pick a side at the moment just because there's no reality to that side yet, right? Like you said, we're probably generations away from, fully integrating with AI and, replacing millions and millions of, labor or even admin jobs, right, by AI. But I think what's not being presented here is that honestly, the administrative jobs are are being changed, I think, more by AI currently, right? Than manual job because, like you said, with the part of the control aspect, right? You know, like in my background in logistics, like people would always still hire other people, right? Simply for the authenticity, right? Like we understand that machines can possibly do a better job or a more effective or even more efficient job, but when we lose control of some of those processes, yeah, I see the fear, absolutely. And this is where I get so intrigued about AI is because I want it to happen, right? I would love to have a counterpart that can easily be, hey, I need you to look this up for me real quick, and I can make a decision a lot quicker, right?
Mhm.
Fantastic. What a great person to have on my team, right? But at the same time, the companies who are going to be hiring or choosing to replace these jobs are going to pick and choose the values that they want to have, right? So I go back to the whole authenticity part, right? Like if you look at an AI image, there's some pretty good AI images now, and you're looking at it and like, dang, like that doesn't look like it's AI, right? But we can still tell that it's AI because it's too perfect, right? And I think that's where AI is going to have the biggest struggle, like being developed, is how can they be imperfectly perfect, right? For a code to be determined their exact parameters, right? To generate such hard lines within their coding to say this stop to this percentage stop, right? That's so different from a human being just accidentally making a mistake, which can sometimes be some of the best work they've ever done, right? Some of the best paintings out there by some of the greatest artists, right? They're not the ones that has the perfect line going down it. They're not the ones with the perfect brush stroke just the right way. They're not the ones with the automated color palettes, right? That's going to generate a visual. I mean, there's some that's amazing like that, but people have done that without AI, right?
Mhm.
What's what's fortunate about AI is that it's now enabling people who can't, a small portion of that. And it's not that it's replacing that person as a job, right? So for example, someone in like a marketing firm, right? If they're an artist and they've put their life's work and their skill in generating, okay, I can draw very, very well. And then you come up with this Canva thing. And it's like now everyone can basically draw or put together a graphic, right? Or for advertising and for whatever the case may be. And people might feel threatened by that because they're like, okay, you just took away my job. Like you could have been a client that I could have done this work for, right? But I think what we're missing here is that you already had that step ahead, right?
But
You already have that vision.
what
So
do you
like
what do you say though to cuz like right now all those images being thrown at us
mhm,
uh by AI comes from a database of images already made. Like it's not creating, and I could be wrong unless from the last thing that I was reading, the
mhm,
last I've heard, it's not necessarily creating anything from thin air. It's just
right. It's
reusing previous things. So,
mhm,
and like, we can have a whole conversation of like inspiration versus, copying or plagiarism, right? Because all artists
Uh-huh.
are inspired by other things and in a way
Right.
take inspiration from that to create. So like what is an original idea, right? But in this case, it's more of a literal sense of taking and using previous images, previous photos, whatever, into creating something that, one can argue that it's its own thing
Well,
because
yeah.
it changes everything. But others are arguing, there are cases right now out there that are arguing that it is stealing their copyright. So,
Right. But as an artist, right, you can still go out and go take a picture, right? You can still go out and paint, right? You can still go out and produce with or without AI,
mhm.
right? And so it's not just AI making everything, right? Or generating something that's going to replace an artist, right?
Well,
Because
I mean, it depends. Like if somebody is an artist
I
and
don't think it can. I don't think it can. It
well,
doesn't have the same nuance. It doesn't have the same as you talk about, right? The background, right? Like as an artist, you talk about inspiration. Like artists draw inspirations from their life, right? How can an AI develop inspiration from something that they didn't have a life in,
well, no,
right? Yeah, you
sure.
can set parameters, but like it doesn't have the same nuance.
No, I agree with you when it comes to an artist that is like doing it like they're an independent artist doing it for themselves and just trying to sell
Yeah,
their own paintings. But when we're talking about like graphic designers and designers that work for companies and there is a very specific prompt, I want you to draw me, I don't know, Iron Man holding a little Batman in their right hand while he's shooting his beams out of his left hand to a building on the left. Like that's a very specific
yeah.
prompt that with enough tweaks,
But
AI could make that image and it doesn't require an
yes,
artist. So
absolutely, but being in that profession, right? It's more than just generating that image, right? How can that image become more effective, right? If you're going to use this specific prompt for some kind of advertising or some kind of marketing, you're just not going to put whatever. I mean, you can, right? If someone who is not who doesn't have a marketing or like advertising background, maybe that is enough for me. But the benefit of having an agency who is focused on marketing, right? They understand the market better, they understand the people better, they understand the target audience better. So even though they're going to give you a prompt, right, as a professional, right, they already have the leg up because now they don't have to draw and render all this stuff, right?
oh, I get
Now
it.
they just save so much. They just save so much time. Now all they have to do is sprinkle in the good stuff, right? Put in the actual creative stuff that these artists are needing to do. Now they just save so much time because, like you said, that's very specific. And guess what? When you're that specific, how many people can draw that? So many people can draw that, right?
Mhm.
Like if you want to be so literal and so specific, which is great. Like even me, like can draw that. Give me
Mhm.
time, right? But like, but now the people who are focused and who are using this for their jobs, right? They're saved maybe an hour or two of time,
Gotcha,
right?
gotcha. Because the
And
you're
now they're
basically
more
saying
focused.
that the job is the creative aspect of coming up with what the image should be rather than doing the actual image itself. Like, it is part of the job,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
more so like, okay, I get what you're saying. That makes a lot more sense. Um but then again, you can also argue that if it won't replace entirely the whole team, what it will do is cut back on people because sure, you can have a team of creative to come up with what they want, like, you know,
Mhm.
a group of people who know what the target audience is, what they're looking, what needs to be in whatever the advertisement is or in the marketing is, and they have the group to be able to brainstorm and once they're done brainstorming, they'll probably divide the work into like who does what drafts of whatever the image you're
Right.
trying to create. But now that there is a tool out there that can create it, given a prompt, then there won't be a need for at least At least not for everybody, at least, you know? You don't need to have a whole team just to come up with an idea. Maybe a few people,
Right.
sure. Maybe a team, sure. But if the other big portion of it was you need to actually draw it and you take that component away from it, then it becomes harder to justify having all those people
Right.
on your payroll if there's already a tool out there that can do it, you know? And
Right.
but
Well, and I
yeah.
guess this is where like kind of like my business mind goes on to. It's like, well, if I'm saving time, means I can take on more clients, right? I don't necessarily need to cut back my staff, right? What if I just want to expand my business instead? If my staff is saving 40% because they're no longer drawing and they can generate something real quick and then add the little stuff, why don't I just take more clients? Expand my business better, right? Like make sure my reach is longer. Hey, you know what? This specific team here has been focusing on the specific demographics, certain culture. They're the specialists in that. So they're going to focus on that now, right? And then this team here, right? They've been doing a bunch of stuff in this way. Give them that lane, you know? Like, why is it that we were thinking of just cutting jobs right away instead of like, okay, let's just
Mhm.
enable more jobs, you know? Or even as an independent, right? If I have the tools to generate a marketing firm and if I have the right ideas, why don't I just start my own little business myself? Right? I no longer have to lean on to a company for software, right? I no longer need to lean on to the companies to get resources, right? Because some of these artists or like marketing firms require tools regardless, right? And resources that these companies provide as part of their jobs and as part of their like job roles, right? Already, you know?
Don't you think oversaturation can become an issue though?
Oh, absolutely, unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that,
Yeah.
right? Because again, we're talking about a reality that still does not exist or
Mhm.
may never exist, right? But I do think that like we can, if we can at least you know have the technology, we can at least pick and choose, right? Like even as the consumer, like look at all the things that are being advertised to us now: organic, cage free, right? Gluten free, vegan free, right? People can pick and choose what they want. So if they like staying in the lane of like advertising marketing, right? People can choose, okay, I want to hire an AI generated company. Or you know what? I would love to just support real artist renderings. No AI. Like why can't we have that kind of distinction? And I think having that distinction is actually even better, right? Tag it. Okay, this is an AI generated images. All right, now this is an AI generated ad, right? I mean, not necessarily so, you know, out there, but like I think we can still pick and choose who we want to support as a human being, like as humans, right? Like if I don't want to support AI because I don't trust AI or like I'm scared of AI, fine. I'm gonna go to an artist who's gonna do it by hand. Dope. You just supported that person, and that person is gonna continue on doing what they're doing. But if you're okay with AI generated stuff or assisted tools, why not go to a a bigger company or someone who is more developed in that kind of sense, right?
Mhm.
So that's the way I think about it. That's why like I know it's still tough to think about like AI replacing jobs or whatever the case may be because it's scary.
Mhm.
Like people hate change, and like when you say that someone's livelihood can be taken away because of a machine, it's definitely scary. But I think the possibilities to generate even more things is exponentially better than losing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that having different options is a good thing. It's just but like from a capitalist point of view, you know, sure there can be a bunch of options, but people are going to go towards the cheapest one because it's what makes sense for their business. Which in one way or it's just the same thing with like products in a grocery store. The ones that aren't selling get taken off the shelf, and with that, it's also gonna cut
But
off.
but is it but isn't that us being in control and determining what we don't and don't like,
Oh no, yeah, I agree
right?
with you. Like I'm not saying that that's. I'm just saying that, like, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here for the
Yeah.
folks that are very skeptical and very much against this, is that no matter how you try to slice it, no matter how you try to phrase it,
Mhm.
people, I'm not saying now, not saying in our generation, who knows, maybe after our lifetime, people will lose jobs. Jobs will be lost. And then hopefully with that comes new jobs and a whole new
Yeah.
phase of humans into a new era of, of evolution, basically. But yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah. No, that'd be cool. Like, honestly, it's really exciting in terms of, what AI is now, right, than it was before. And I'm so excited about the conversation of like AI integration, and what people people's vision of AI can differ, right? Because obviously everybody has their own goals and they have their own limitations. So, they want to develop AI their way. So it's just really fun. So yeah, I had a great time talking about AI with you. It's it's
Same, dude. Same. This was great. This is a great
yeah,
little pilot episode.
yeah. So yeah, this is cool. I don't know how long we've been going at
Um, we have been going on
for a
for
minute.
53 minutes. Yeah,
Jesus Christ!
I'm gonna
Did
stop
we really
recording
talk
now.
that much?
Yeah.